Hello, my name is Juan Ramirez. I'm a product designer for the runner and testing teams at GitLab. And this video that I'm doing today is a video that has been asked by many people, which I think it's going to be very helpful. And this video is going to be about how to make UI text changes to GitLab. And today I'm just going to do like a brief tutorial on how to do that. I'm going to try to be fast, but also I'm gonna try to have a good pace so whoever is watching this video can follow along. And we are just gonna do 2 examples today. Hopefully those 2 examples can address some of the use cases that are for this particular type of changes. And there's of course gonna be more things that probably are not gonna be covered in the scope of this video, but anytime you can just send me a Slack message, or you can just ask for me to expand more, and I'll probably can do another of these videos with more details. Okay, so with that being said, what I'm gonna do right now is I'm gonna share my screen and I'm gonna show some introductory stuff that is gonna help us to move along with this tutorial. Right, sharing my screen right now. Also, during the course of this video, my main screen is going to be in front of me. My camera is going to be here, so I'm likely going to be looking at this screen. So it's going to look a little bit weird, but just bear with me. All right, so how to make UI text changes in GitLab. So that's something that it's a small change, it's a small thing that people want to do, and it's usually not that hard, but it has some complexities, and I'm going to try to help you today to navigate and browse those complexities, so you can, like, anyone who's watching this video and it's not a developer, it's not a front-end or back-end developer, can still make these changes, because we have a lot of these things that are like really low-hanging fruit. Like one example of those things is changing text that it's in title case and should be in sentence case. You know, we have some of those inconsistencies across the UI, and that's something that it's a very small contribution that can add a lot in terms of consistency and how professional our website looks like. And there's of course many other things, just from fixing typos to making language more clear. There's a lot of this stuff that can help a lot to make GitLab a better tool. And because we're very verbose in terms of what we present in our UIs, it's very important to have those texts right. And that's why I wanted to make this tutorial. So anyone who is not 100% technical can still do these type of changes. So, all right, so I wanted to start with the prerequisites. There's 3. The first one is you want to have GDK installed and configured. If you haven't done that, there's a setup guide that you can use. It's like just follow along, and you should be able to set up a working GDK after you do all that stuff. The other thing is that as part of cloning your GDK, you need to clone, as part of like setting up your GDK, you need to clone a GitLab project into your GDK. And when you do this, you want to make sure that you clone that via SSH, and that you set up a public key and public SSH key in your GitLab. And the reason why is because that's the easiest way to make pushes. If you do it through HTTPS, which is the other alternative, it becomes way more tricky. Sometimes the terminal is going to ask you for the credentials every time that you're going to do a change. It's not as smooth, so make sure that you do that. I also added a link here, and I'm going to be sharing this document, and I'm going to add that in the description of the video. So just make sure that you have this set up this way. And finally, you need to have a code editor. Any code editor will make it, but my suggestion is use Visual Studio Code. That's the canonical editor in the industry, and it works pretty well, and that's the one I'm going to be using in this tutorial. So yeah, just make sure to set that up as well. Okay, so what are we gonna be learning today? We're gonna be learning how to identify the text that needs to be changed in the local installation. So basically just going in your local installation and trying to find the text that you wanna change. Finding that text in the files using Visual Studio Code. Determining what files need to be changed. Once you are in Visual Studio Code and you identify those files, you're gonna need to determine what you want to change, and that's a little bit of the tricky part of doing this. But I'll give you some tips on that. And pushing the change and opening an MR with the changes. And I'm gonna show you that you can open an MR and you're not gonna affect absolutely anything. Nothing is gonna change the main code base. Nothing's gonna make it to master unless someone approves that and makes it to master that way, you know. So you can push whatever you want. You can open any kind of MR, and it's not gonna break anything. So I also want to give you the confidence that doing this is not gonna break anything, and you can test and you can basically experiment as much as you want. And I also am gonna cover some caveats, some tricky stuff on these, mainly translations, which you have to run every time that you push changes, text changes, and tests, because sometimes many of these things are being tested in certain like jobs that are meant to test the code. And if you change the text, then it might break an actual test from the ones that we already have set up in GitLab. So I'll talk a little bit about that as well. All right, so I'm gonna do two examples. The first one is in CI/CD settings, there's a heading that says protected environments title case, and we're gonna change that to protected environments sentence case. And then in CI/CD settings, there's a button that says add variable title case, and we're gonna change that to sentence case. And just being super upfront, heads up, I just saw those examples. I didn't test these before, so any hiccups that I find throughout these are gonna be the same hiccups that you're gonna find when doing this, you know. And I'll try to figure out those things. And I didn't prepare anything beyond this document, so you can also kind of like find your own workflow. And I'll show you what my workflow is. Sometimes my workflow implies going and Googling stuff like the translation job that you gotta run in your terminal once you make the translations. I don't know that off the top of my mind, so I always Google that, and you will see me doing that. So, all right, so enough talking, let's jump into the action. All right, so I'm gonna open Visual Studio first. I already have GitLab open here. So what you wanna do is you want to go and you want to open the folder in which your GitLab lives, right? So in this case, you just want to go to, like, I have it in my desktop, and then I have my GDK here, and I have two GDKs. I have what I'm working on GDK2, and then I'll find a GitLab folder here, which is this one, and then you want to open that one. Right now, I already have it open, so I'm not gonna open it again, but you get the idea. Okay, so the other thing is just basically finding those examples that I talked about before, right? So, all right, so I said that those two things that I want to change, they live in settings. So right now you're seeing my local installation. This is my GDK. As you can see here, let me just move this to the top. 1 minute. All right, I'm just gonna annotate some things as I talk. All right, so as you can see here, I am on my local host, right? I'm not working out of the cloud or anything. This is my local machine with my local installation of GitLab. This is GitLab run through GDK. All right, so let's basically go to any test. I'm gonna go to this test. Sorry, I'm to any project. I'm gonna go to this project. And then I was talking about text that lives in settings, particularly CI/CD settings. So I'm just gonna go to the CI/CD settings, and I wanna change this protected environment. So now the question is how am how am I going to find this text in the files? And the good news here is that most of the times it's going to be very straightforward. You know, it's going to be a matter of just finding this exact text in the UI. Sometimes it's going to get more tricky because sometimes we have so much repetition of concepts that you're going to find multiple instances of the same type of text around, you know. And for those cases, you might want to, you know, start like looking for longer strings, and then like trying to find the like if that string is in the same file. So one example is if this was a very generic piece of text, you might want to try to find this one first, protecting an environment, blah blah blah. Find that in your Visual Studio, as I'm going to explain in a minute, and then within that file, it's likely that this particular one it's close to this because it's basically the same component or the same template or whatever. So that's just like a small strategy. For the examples that I pick, I think I'm gonna find them right away. I don't know yet, but this one seems to be very straightforward. So I'm just gonna like copy this text as it is. And then I'm gonna go to Visual Studio and like, I'm just gonna make this bigger. Okay, so now I'm in Visual Studio. The most important thing for this workflow that I'm explaining here is this search guide. So search in Visual Studio is very, very powerful. When I'm talking about search, I'm talking about this guy here. This one is pretty good for what we're gonna do, and it's what makes Visual Studio very powerful. I haven't tried other search functionality in other editors, but I know this one is pretty good. So just have that in mind. All right, so you go to search, and then you are gonna find these two things here: search, replace. You don't want to do the search and replace. That never do that, because like you're gonna break things. What you want to do is search the text, and then you want to change that on the text editor itself. Just make sure that you're changing the right things. A couple of things, like the first one is this little thing here. This means that when you toggle this on, it's gonna find text respecting the text case, right? So if I type something in caps, it's gonna find only text that it's in caps, right? And this is good when you're trying to find, like, for instance, this thing that we're trying to find right now. You can always turn off this. If I do protected environments, you're gonna see that it finds a lot of files in which the environments piece of the string is not, it's not capitalized, the first letter. That's right, but since we have this toggle that is gonna make our life a little bit easier, then I'm just gonna turn it on. And now it's gonna find only those instances where we have protected environments using the first letter in environments capitalized. All right, so you are gonna get a lot of files. Change logs, anything that it's change logs, or like anything that it's a markdown file, ignore those. That's not what you want to change. The most likely thing that you want to change is either a handle file, a Ruby file, or a .view file. Those are the three type of files that you are likely going to change when you're changing text. You also want to look for one particular thing, like strings in GitLab are usually internationalized or translated, because GitLab, it's also presented in other languages. So we have this service that translates all the strings. So when people use, let's say, GitLab in Japanese, they see the actual strings in Japanese. Which brings me to an important point. You're gonna see a lot of translation files like this one. You can totally ignore these, never change those. Those are generated automatically, so you don't have to change those. So again, what you wanna make sure is that you're finding strings in Ruby files, in HAML files, or in .view files. Coming back to what I was saying before, those internationalized strings are usually encapsulated in a markup that looks a little bit like this. I'm gonna put it in replace, but it's not because I'm gonna replace it, it's because it's the only text that I have, area of text that I have to type something right now. But it looks a little bit like this. It looks like like this a little bit. So you're gonna have a piece of text here, and that it usually looks like that. That's when you find text that uses that pattern, like where the string is encapsulated in that type of markdown, it's likely text that that's likely the text that you want to change. So if you look in the files that we found, there's one that actually is doing that and meets all the conditions that we just talked about. It's a .html file, and it has that type of markdown that I just explained. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna click here, and it's gonna open the file. This file, I'm just gonna put it on Ruby. That's very likely the file that we want to change, right? It has many of the telltales that it's the thing that we want to change. For instance, one of those telltales is that it's talking about expand button, right? And when you go here, there's expand button here, right? Like, so like this is likely a template that is being rendered from the server. It's being put here, and yeah, I'm almost 100% sure that this is the text that we want to change. So to do that, very simple. We're gonna change it, and then we're gonna verify if we actually did the change. So I'm just gonna delete that. Now it's sentence case. I'm gonna save it, and I'm gonna go back to my GDK, running GDK, my local GitLab, and I'm gonna refresh. And as you see, it changed. So we are good. We just changed that. We already did a meaningful change in terms of consistency, and that can like take you a long way. It can help you to do a lot of other things, and it was very easy. So we just did that change. So that's great. So fortunately, that was an easy one. Sometimes they are not as easy, and that's why I picked a second example. And that second example is a button, this add variable button. I know because I have worked with the GitLab code base before, that buttons are not coming from templates, HTML templates. They are coming from likely components, view files. So that's why I picked this one, but I don't know what's gonna happen. So we're gonna find it again, and we're gonna try to change it. So we already know a couple of rules. So just as a reminder, those rules are HTML files, sometimes Ruby files, things that end in .rb. And I'm gonna explain the tests at the end. I haven't gotten to that yet. And then the other file is .view file. So okay, so add variable, still I'm gonna use this toggled on because I wanna find that specific instance of that text. And there you go. That one was pretty easy as well, because the first file that we're finding meets that condition of the markdown that I explained at the beginning. It has this underscore, and then it has the parentheses, and then it has the text. So it's likely that this is the text that we are looking for. So I'm gonna open, and it's that view file, so it meets that condition as well. I'm gonna explain the test, changing the test. I don't know if this has tests, but I don't think it does. But I'm pretty sure that if I delete this, I'm gonna find some tests for this particular file. Yeah, there you go. So you're gonna find some files like this one that end in spec.js or spec.rb, and those files, you don't always need to change those files, but you gotta make sure that those files are not testing for text conditions. And what that means is that sometimes these files, they are very easy to read actually. So like, don't be scared about what you're reading here, but sometimes these files will have like tests that read something like describe something, adding a new variable, and maybe there's gonna be something that says, make sure that the button is present. And then what it's trying to test for is the presence of the test. of the text. That sounds kind of weird, but when you find those, you will know what I'm talking about. Like, I don't know if there's one in this example that I can use. Actually, there's one. See, this one is a good example. What this particular test is looking for is this thing that says update variable. So if you change whatever text this is testing, let's say you are changing these to title case. So somewhere in that view file, you change this to like change something to update variable with this one capitalized. If you don't change that test here to that, then what happens is when you run the pipeline, it's gonna fail, because like the pipeline is gonna be like, oh, I didn't find that text. You know, I'm still looking for one that it's in sentence case, not in title case. So I know that's kind of weird. I know that I'm like basically jamming this in between, but I just wanted to mention that because you're gonna find some instances of that, and I want to make sure that you're aware of those. If you're having trouble with those, feel free to just message me, or you can talk with one of your front-end engineers. They will definitely know how to fix that. But yeah, just be aware of that. Hopefully you're not gonna find a lot of those, but it happens sometimes. It has happened to me in the past. So anyways, we were here. We were gonna change this little dude to add variable. First, I want to show you that there's indeed something that needs to be changed. This is the button that we want to change. Add variable is in title case, and we want to change that to sentence case. So we go here. We're gonna remove that and then save it. Hopefully that's gonna work out. I'm gonna refresh this. It's gonna take a minute because it's GDK, and GDK is not as fast as Cloud GitLab. It's your machine doing everything. So, it failed. That's okay. That happens sometimes. That's probably because my machine is running many things right now. So I'm just gonna refresh. If you see these, don't worry. Okay, we're back. That's good. I'm gonna open variables, and there you go. Add variable, right? Perfect. Now we changed that text as well. All right, so let's go back to our tutorial thing that we had at the beginning. I think we already covered finding the text in the local installation. We find the text using VS Code. We determine what files need to be changed, and we're gonna push the changes and opening the MR. However, I'm gonna jump quickly to 5 because there's one tricky step that I already covered in between, which was the tests. There's one more important thing that I gotta do is, and that thing is the translations. So anytime that you change text in GitLab, you need to run a translation jobs that is gonna generate these .po files that you see here. You don't have to change those yourself. That's gonna be generated by an automated job in that you can run in your machine. And I'm gonna explain you in a minute how you do it. But yeah, just have in mind that if you don't do that, if you don't run the translations, then your pipeline is gonna fail because it needs those translations to work. So how do you run those translations? It's not that hard. You just need to run one command, which, by the way, I don't know which it is, but I always Google that. So I always go to Google and I Google something like GitLab translations. And I know that the job has something to do with like being rake or whatever. So I always type that. I know that that's part of the command, so that's how I search it. This is the page that I'm always looking for. I should probably memorize this or like save it somewhere else, but you can find it this way too. You want to find one line of one command here, and I'm gonna tell you which exactly it is. It's somewhere. Okay, this is the one. So updating the PO files with the new content. So we have new content. We gotta update the PO files. The way that you do it is by running this. How do you run it? You go to your GitLab. You can use your GitLab. You go to your VS Code. You can use your terminal there, or you can use your iTerm or your Mac terminal, whatever you want. In this case, I'm gonna use this terminal. I'm gonna make sure that I'm on the right place. You gotta be in GitLab, inside the GitLab folder, inside GDK. I am on that one, and then I'm just gonna paste that, and then I'm gonna run them. And this is gonna take a while. This is not fast, so it's already thinking. Don't worry if you don't see things happening there. That's usually what happens. It takes a minute. I'm gonna probably fast forward this in the video when I'm editing, but yeah, just know that it's definitely not fast. All right, so the translations are done. So that's awesome. Now we're just gonna make sure that everything looks good. Everything looks good here. We have 2 files that we changed. And we have a GitLab.pod file that contains all the translations that we just did. So we're good. I'm gonna create an MR for this, just so you see how an MR is it gets created for this type of stuff. And just so you know, so you can see that there's nothing scary about creating an MR for code-based changes. You're not gonna break anything. It's totally fine. Just bear in mind that in a real case scenario, I wouldn't actually submit this MR for review because I'm making 2 changes in 2 completely different things. And usually the way that we develop at GitLab, we don't do that type of stuff. We actually just change one little thing and then we submit an MR for that, and that's it. You know, you don't wanna mix apples with pears. Although this is text changes, they are in different areas, different files. This is gonna trigger different reviewers, like it's gonna Danger is gonna ping and trigger different reviewers. Yeah, definitely not a good idea to submit an MR with these 2 changes, but I'm gonna do it just so you see that it's quite easy. And let me just dismiss these, don't save. All right. So the way to do this is very simple. So right now, as I said at the beginning of the tutorial, you want to have SSH set up. If you don't have SSH, this is not gonna be as easy. But because I have SSH set up, it's gonna be quite easy. So the only thing that I gotta do is basically commit this. So I'm gonna git commit message. Just make sure that you respect the conventions. We have some conventions in GitLab when you create commits. The first letter must be capitalized. Don't add in a dot, like in a period, like your message. And another one is no more than 75 characters. So what I'm gonna name this commit is gonna be something like updating text case. And then I'm gonna, oh, by the way, something that I didn't do. Please forget what I just did. This is something very important, something that I should have done from the beginning, and it's my mistake, but you should create a new branch for these changes, which I'm gonna do right now. So I'm gonna, before I commit anything, I'm gonna create a branch that it's called text fixes UI, and that's gonna fail because never mind, of course, that's horrible. Let me actually put my username there. Okay, so now I switched to a new branch. Now I'm good. Now I'm gonna actually do the commit that I was doing before. So git commit message fixing text case, And then, of course, I forgot to add the files. Sorry about that. That's another thing that you gotta do. I thought that I had done that. You gotta add the files that you just changed. You do that with git add period. And now you can actually commit. So you do git commit message, fixing text case. Now 3 files change, 5 insertions. Now you wanna push. What's gonna happen here is if I do git push, it's gonna say like, hey, you cannot push yet because you need an upstream branch. And I could do that right away, but I usually allow the terminal to tell Git to tell me that, and then I copy the command that they give me back. So I basically just do git push origin, and it tells me this thing to push the current branch and set the remote as upstream, use this. So I just copy this and paste that here, and that's gonna generate the upstream branch that I'm gonna use to create my MR. Just doing that, it's pushing the changes, it's coming, it's happening. And there you go. Now we have an actual merge request URL where we can work. So I'm gonna open that. You just need to follow this link. So just do command click here in this case, open, and that's gonna, oh, that's strange. Let me see why that happened. Seems that it's a problem with, as I said at the beginning, finding the hiccups, didn't try this before. So that's pretty strange. Okay, I know what was going on. It's basically that I'm locked out from something locked me out. So I'm just gonna do full link, yes, open. Okay, we're good. Now it's working. Okay, so as always, it's very important that you follow all our workflows and you respect the way the developers work. You're doing developer work. You're not a developer, but you're doing developer work. So make sure that you follow what the template tells you to do. Add screenshots as necessary. I'm not going to do that for the sake of the tutorial. But yeah, just have that in mind. Also, take like a meaningful title, fixing title case issues in settings. And this is, let's say that this is a work in progress for now. And I'm gonna create it just as it is, you know, I'm gonna assign this to me, it doesn't matter. I'm gonna say that I wanna squash the comments when the merge request is accepted. But the reason why I'm gonna create it is because I wanna show you that like nothing happens. I just did 2 changes and nothing's gonna happen. I'm gonna submit the merge request and you're not gonna break anything. Everything's fine. It's gonna, Danger is gonna run its job and it's gonna suggest some reviewers, but Danger is not gonna ping the reviewers. So you're totally fine. You're not like, you know, creating an inconvenience for anyone here. This is just your work, you know. Very importantly, you wanna make sure that the pipeline is running, which in this case is already running. The last important thing here is like, I'm not gonna wait for this pipeline to pass, but you wanna make sure that this pipeline is passing. If it fails, you gotta go and check likely what test is failing. When something fails, it's likely a test or is likely danger bot, the danger image, which I don't know where it is exactly, but danger is the bot that like coordinates the MR and make sure that the MR is consistent with our practices. And danger can complain about your commit message, can complain about the way that you set up your MR, and you just gotta pay attention to those things and perhaps fix those things. But there you go. We basically went through all these things. We fixed 2 pieces of text, and it's now running a pipeline. And if this was successful and I added all the details, then I can ping my reviewers and I can probably submit this for review and get this merge very soon. You know, like likely reviewers are gonna look at it quick, and they are gonna maybe make a couple of suggestions, maybe not. But if they agree with the change, then that basically makes it to the next batch of deployment, and then once it's approved and moved to like the next environment, then your change might be in the code base by like in a couple of days or so, or like that night sometimes. I don't know how fast it is, but it's fast. And yeah, that's everything that I have for you today. I think I already covered everything. Just a quick recap: make sure that you have the prerequisites before you do any of these. And very importantly, make sure that you are aware of the caveats and the tricky stuff. One important caveat for sure is to have everything set up well. In your VS Code and your machine and your GDK, you want to have all those things well set up. The other one that I talk about is the tests. I know that I wasn't super clear on that one, but I think you're gonna realize when those tests need to be changed. I think it's quite evident when you see those. Just make sure that you check for those files as well. It's files that end in .spec. That's part of the suffix of the file. And if you have doubts about that, you can message me, or you can talk with your developers as well. They know how to deal with this as well. And yeah, the last tricky stuff is not really like a tricky stuff, but it's a requirement, which is make sure that you run the translations. If you don't run the translations, it's gonna fail the pipeline because like you didn't do that. And yeah, that's it. I hope this was helpful. I hope it's not too long, but I wanted to be very thorough. And if you have questions, just send me a Slack message, and I'll be happy to help you. Have a good one.